Okay, I'm starting to see something that doesn't look right. Okay, here we have a Brother Innovis NQ1600E. This one is an embroidery machine, so there's also an embroidery arm associated with it. It is not able to be used as a sewing machine because there are no feed dogs on this machine. It only moves fabric using the embroidery arm. The problem is that it is pulling the fabric inside of the machine. So whenever you see that problem, the first thing you want to do is change your needle, because if there's a burr on the tip of the needle or it's blunt or something like that, it's going to try and push the fabric down through the hole. The other issue could be that you have too much tension on the bobbin or something else that's pulling that fabric down, too little tension on top, something like that. So these are some things we're going to look at. Also, if there's needle strikes and it's grabbing that fabric, that could be part of your issue as well. So we'll take a look, we'll see what we can find in this machine, and there we go. Now, one thing about embroidery machines, these are home machines, and we'll find out when we get inside of this machine, but sometimes they get used by people who own an Etsy store or something like that, and they use it for their business, but these machines were never meant to be used that much. So you could see some pretty serious wear issues inside the machine, but we're going to take a look at it. The needle seems to be okay. So this needle, I'm running it on my finger like this, and if there's a burr there, it's going to grab my skin or scratch my skin. This is not scratching me at all. So the needle's probably okay. We're going to replace it because that's what we do. Keep in mind that normally the first thing I want to do is take the machine apart and do a full cleaning. Right now I just want to take a look at a few of the easy things we can look at first and maybe make a short video for you for a change. I don't know. So I want to look at this and I want to see if there's any places where the needle has hit this, because that will grab your thread if it has, and this is actually really smooth. I don't see any evidence of the needle hitting this. So we're looking good there. Okay, I'm starting to see something that doesn't look right. Can you see the loops on this bobbin? I'll take a picture and show that to you. So when your bobbin is not threaded tightly, then you're going to have all these loops around here. And so the loops, what that does is, as it's unraveling, what happens is when you hit one of those loops, the loops get covered up by the string and the subsequent layers of the thread. And what it ends up doing is you'll have moments where it's really hard to pull and then moments where it's really easy to pull. So it's not a consistent tension. These machines have to have consistent tension to be able to operate. For them to sew correctly, you have to have consistent tension. And when you have a bobbin that has a bunch of loops around it, you don't have consistent tension. And that can cause other issues. So it's not just the bobbin. It could be that since there were tension issues, that needle was moving left or right, up and down, side to side, because the tension was different and it's causing that needle to flex. And then it could end up giving you needle strikes on your needle plate. Right down here you've got some lines, and I can feel them with my fingernail, so that means they're too deep. So we're going to have to clean that up. And then there's some on the inside of that lip where the needle goes. So those needle strikes could have been caused by this bobbin that's not wound correctly. Okay, so we found two problems, and then the next thing I'm going to do is take apart this machine. We're going to do a cleaning and put it all back together and see what's going on. One other thing I did find here, you might be able to see it, the thread cutter is extended, so they either turned it off while it was moving or it has broken and jammed somehow. So I might turn it on and see if that'll retract as it goes through its turn-on cycle. So let's check that out. Okay, so that just retracted as it went through its startup cycle. So I'm pretty sure it probably got stuck because of the problems this was happening, and the problems that it's having. So they just turned it off with that while it was out. But it's another thing we'll check when we get this all back together. Alright, so now that I've got this apart, it doesn't want to come completely apart because there is a cable connecting the front panel to the chassis. This is a ground cable, and I did disconnect it from the board, but this is as far as I can get it, which is fine. I've got plenty of room to work, and I could take it all the way off, but there is no need at this point, so it would just cause more effort for very, very little gain. So I'm going to turn this and I'm going to look. A lot of times with embroidery machines, you want to look in the upper end above the needle because there's going to be thread that's been, by the time you realize something's wrong with your embroidery machine, it has gone through some stuff without you standing there. So a lot of times there's a bunch of thread stuck in the upper portion above the needle somewhere. And I can see a little bit. And it's the place that it gets stuck is where all these joints are that move around like pivot points, and they just catch that thread and it just kind of wraps around. So we've got one of them at least that has some thread on it, so we're going to try and unravel a little bit here. Okay, I wish they were all that easy, but you see that? So we had a little bit of thread there. And now it's time to go through with my brush and my vacuum. I don't care who you are, eye protection is important. So as you can see, I used the Dremel for a good portion of this, and then I'm using a little strip of sandpaper to get the inside, just to keep the thread from getting stuck on any of those burrs. So now this should be nice and smooth inside, and as well as on the inside of that lip there. The Dremel will get the outside, but the sandpaper does a good job of getting inside the lip. You ever have that feeling you forgot something? Well, just before I plugged this in to wind a bobbin, I realized I had not reconnected the front screen to the computer, so we're going to take this apart again. Alright, there it is. Pay attention when you're putting things back together, people. It'll save you a little bit of headache. Alright, we got an Oregon 7511 replacement needle. So we've wound a nice bobbin. take a look at it. I'm going to get rid of this little tail right here. Now when you don't have a nice bobbin, you see how that's lopsided? So the thread wasn't working its way across that bobbin with that pressure with your tension from this little tensioner right here. So this bobbin wasn't wound correctly. And this one was, so we're going to put this one in. So here's where we're at. We got this thing to embroider our nice O. I pick round letters that are kind of thick, and so you can see how it sews all the way around. It kind of gives it a good 360-degree test of your embroidery machine. And this is good for a home machine. It's not perfect, but it's good, as good as this machine's going to do, especially when it's set up by me, who I'm not really that great at setting these up. But it's got a good stitch to it. It's got it's even all the way around, and it's working. It didn't have any problems poking through the fabric. It didn't have any problems pulling on the bottom. So I think we've solved our issue. I believe we had we started out with a bobbin that was bad, that was wound poorly. The tension then was jerky, and when that happens, your needle's going to flex and move. And when the needle moves, it's going to strike the needle plate, which it did, and then you're going to have the needle plate's going to be rough in some spots, and that'll catch the thread and cause even more problems, and it'll get stuck there and then try to pull your fabric through as well. So I think that's what our problem was, and so the last step to do is to clean up the machine really well and get it back, because it's got some dirt to it. So we're going to clean it up and try and make it look brand new. The other thing is I'll look at the embroidery unit as well, but that's for another video. Alright, there is one clean machine. Looks brand new, so hopefully they are happy with it. Make sure you're paying attention when you're winding bobbins. Thanks for watching.